Hey guys, in this video we're going to take a look at the different types that we can use in Angular and TypeScript. So I just kind of reset this to just be the H1 with the hello world and no properties, no methods or anything. I want to start from scratch. So the first thing we're going to do is add a property here, and let's set it to we'll add a property of name. We'll set it to John Doe just like we did before. And that's fine, okay? That's absolutely fine. But if you want to take it a step further, which if you were building a production application, I would definitely recommend you can type this. You can add a type to it, which is going to be a string, obviously. So what we would do is just put a colon and then the word string, okay? And that casts it to a string. And then we can insert that up here just like we did before. Okay, save that. That works. Now, if we were to put a constructor here and then say this dot name and then try to set it to, let's say, 34, okay, we're trying to set it to a number, you'll see that Visual Studio Code using the Angular plugin, it already tells us that there's an error. We didn't even have to try to run it yet. We get this red squiggly line that says type 34 is not assignable to type string. Okay, so it's telling us that it's not a match to what this should be. And if we go ahead and save that and let it reload, we get that same error in the browser and it fails to compile. Okay, now I understand that this is another step. It's just some more keystrokes you have to type, but it protects your application a little more from being error prone, from someone putting something in here that isn't supposed to be there. All right, and it's not that much work to just put colon string here, So I would definitely suggest, if you're building a serious application, that you do use the typing. All right, so let's take a look at some of the other types. I'm just going to get rid of that line there. So of course we have number. So if we wanted to say age and set that to a number, and we could set that to 35. We also have booleans. So let's say we'll say has children. We'll set that to Boolean and set it to let's set it to true. Okay, and if I go down here and I say this dot has Boolean and we set it to false, okay, has Boolean, has children, that's fine, okay, because false is still a Boolean. Now, if I were to try and set this to a number, we're going to get an error. If I try to set that to a string, we're going to get an error as well. All right, so we have string, number, Boolean. We also have the any type, which is just that. Let's say city, and we'll set it to the type of any. We'll set it to a string of Boston. All right, and then down here we can say this dot city. And if we set that to 34, that's fine because it's any. It can be absolutely any type. It could be an array. Okay, we could go like that. We could put anything there. Another thing we could do is set an array. So let's say we want to have an array of numbers. We'll say my numbers array. And to set this, to set the type, what we have to do is first set the type of data that's going to go in the array, which will be number, and then we just need to put a set of brackets after it. All right, and then we can set it to an array. We'll just do 1, 2, 3. Okay, and that's going to work. And then if I were to say this dot my numbers array equals, and even if it was an array but it had strings like that, you'll see we're still going to get this error. And it says type string array is not assignable to type number array. All right, and then at the same time we can do an array of strings. So if we say my strings array and set that to the type of string, not strung, string, and array, and then we'll set that to, we'll just say hello world. All right, and if I try to enter a number up here, we're also going to get an error. Okay, it goes for, setting it down here or up here, wherever you're going to set it. It's going to make sure that the type matches. Now, if you wanted to have an array that could have both numbers, letters, and any other kind of type, you could use an any array. So if we say my any array and just set it to any, and then a set of brackets, and then we could set it to, let's say 1, 2, hello, and you see we don't get any errors because it can be any data type inside of this array. Now, if you wanted to be very specific about what types you want and in what order, you could use something called a tuple. So let's say my tuple, and we're going to set this to a set of brackets as the type, and then let's say this has to be a string and then a number. All right, so we'll set that to a tuple, which is the same format as an array, but it has to be a string and then it has to be a number. Okay, if I try to put a string here, that's not going to work. It has to be a number. So that's what a tuple is. And I personally haven't worked much with tuples. I haven't really had a need for them, but they are available. Another type we can set is void. So let's say, we'll say unusable, and we'll set that to void. And then for this to work without error, we're going to set it to undefined. If we set it to anything else, then it's going to give us an error. It has to be undefined. Same thing if we were setting a function return, it would have to not return anything. Now we also have undefined as an actual type, so let's set this right here. We'll set it to a variable called u, and we'll set the type to undefined, and you'll see that that works. All right, and then we also have null, so we'll set n to null, and that obviously has to be equal to null. Okay, if we put undefined here, that also works. All right. So these are the basic types in Angular and TypeScript. Now in the next video, we're going to take a look at setting objects. Okay, you notice that I haven't set any objects here because I want to specifically get into objects and interfaces. Okay, so we can actually map out what we want each object to look like in an interface. So that's what we'll be getting into in the next video.